there proof for God? The religious always seem to think so, but when it comes right down to it, nothing they present comes anywhere remotely close. They don't understand the kind of proof that we're looking for, and obviously, they have nothing intelligent to present. That's why we spend so much time rolling our eyes at these idiots. But here's another one who thinks he can do it. So let's give him a chance. Then we can laugh. Today, we're taking a look at a small channel called Ontology, where the theist says he has proof for atheists that God is real. Now keep that in mind, that's proof for atheists, not proof for theists, proof for us. How many times have we heard that before, and how many times have we been disappointed? Strap in, because I think we're going to be disappointed once again as we go through a roller coaster of wild accusations, mindless complaints, and one of the biggest letdowns in the end that I've seen of late. Here comes proof of God for atheists. It's just proof of religious gullibility.
Morning guys, hope you guys are well. It's extremely early here and I'm about to have my coffee. And today's video, I'm going to give you irrefutable evidence that God exists.
Well, finally, because nobody ever does that. Oh, they pretend they will, just like this guy is going to do, but it's funny how their irrefutable evidence is laughably easily refutable in every single case, isn't it? They're really not concerned whether the things they believe are factually true or not. So long as it gets those feel-good chemicals in their brains running, they're fine with it, no matter how silly it ultimately is. They've had their brains programmed to think absolutely everything is proof that they're right. You know, look at the trees. They don't understand how to convince someone who doesn't automatically leap to their conclusion that anything they have to say is factually correct. Because rationally and logically, it isn't. But let's give this guy a chance and see what he comes up with, shall we?
And this is a follow-up video from my previous video where I was talking about why atheism doesn't make sense.
And granted, I didn't watch that, although I'm happy to go back and check it out if he makes a good showing of himself here. If, after watching this video, you want me to go take that on, let me know in the comments. Just be aware that there's at least a 2-month lead time for all of my videos, so if this video comes out today and you tell me that you want me to cover this atheism doesn't make sense video today, and I actually were to make it tomorrow, you wouldn't see it here on the channel for at least 2 months. I don't think a lot of people realize just how far ahead I am. Of course, if you do want to see it faster, you could take a run over to my Patreon page where every single video I have is available to watch right now. The link is in the description.
But before I get into that video, I just wanted to mention that a lot of people in the comments are not candid and are very insincere.
That's an attitude I see a lot from the religious. They really can't understand why we're not just like they are. It's a very common religious trait, as we've seen around here before. They fall for the most absurd and emotionally comforting rhetoric handed down by religious leaders, and therefore, why doesn't everyone else? Well, it's because we're not like you are. We're not gullible. It's like saying, why doesn't everyone respond to those Nigerian princes or take those emails about millions of dollars free from widows overseas if you just send your banking details? Why doesn't everyone fall for that? Well, because we're not dumb. Because we actually care about reality, and we've done our research to find out that the claims made by these shysters simply don't hold up to rational scrutiny. We're not insincere. We're intelligent. There's a difference. Why don't you give it a shot?
So they'll pretend like they're, engaging in the discussion. They'll pretend like they're actually listening to what you're saying, but they're actually looking for an opportunity to, disprove your argument, or an opportunity to kind of like put you down.
No, we're looking for a chance to engage rationally with a position which is inherently irrational. And that's probably a pointless thing for us to do, but, some of us are a glutton for punishment. In fact, if there is anyone who isn't paying attention, it's the religious. We point out the failures in your theology time and time again, and you just don't care. Now, I can't say anything about this guy in particular because I've never interacted with his videos before. But I'll be really, really surprised if he's any different than any of the other apologists that I've taken a look at in the many years I've been doing this. The religious mindset simply doesn't allow them to step back and examine their beliefs dispassionately and intellectually, and that's what we expect. That's what any rational evaluation of any given position requires. But they can't do that because they are emotionally invested in their beliefs, and they really couldn't care less if they're true or false. And that's their problem, not ours.
But you know exactly what I mean. Because you're stuck in your own belief system, you don't really care to listen to what other people have to say, which is ironic because you accuse, Christians of being one-dimensional, so to speak. But that's absolutely fine.
And that's exactly what we hear from you, right? You're not listening. And then you describe atheists as a one-dimensional caricature of what we're really like, because you're desperately looking for a way to discredit what we're saying because you are so emotionally invested in your own position. It's not hard to find the religious pretending like atheists are devil-worshipping, baby-eating monsters. Why? Because that has an emotional impact on them and on their followers. The one thing that you never see is them engaging honestly and intellectually with our arguments. They can't. It gets in the way of their feelings.
But before I give you that piece of evidence, I just want to say that the number one reason why a lot of so-called atheists or people that have a lack of belief in God do not want to listen to Christians speak is simply because they want to continue living in their own sin.
And there it is. That's a very common chestnut that's laughably absurd. We don't believe in sin, or at least I don't believe in sin as the religious do. I can only speak for myself. Without a God of some sort, sin has no meaning. There's nothing to sin against. But this gets right back to the religious being convinced that everyone is just like they are. We all really believe in their imaginary friend because it says so in their silly book of mythology. And that has to be right? Because they can't handle it if it's wrong. They really don't understand anything that's going on. None of them do. Not one. They live in this absurd religious fantasy bubble beyond which they are completely blind. How do we know that? Because most of us used to be just like them. We used to think these very same things. And then we got better and saner. Maybe you should give it a shot, Just saying. But anyway, you've wasted almost half of your video complaining about everyone else. How about you actually provide your proof?
They don't want anyone, especially, God, coming into their lives and interrupting whatever type of sin they're doing, because they know that, once they're following God's law, there are consequences for that. And they'd rather not stop.
Well, that's your claim. Do you think you're ever going to be able to back that up in any kind of logical, rational, or evidentially valid manner? No, of course you're not, because you rely on faith, not fact, and we don't care about your faith. we care what you can prove, and you haven't proven a thing. You haven't even tried, at least not in this video. All that you've done is complain and proven that you don't really have a clue what the hell you're talking about. This is what happens when absolutely everything you see, absolutely everything you say, all of it gets run through your mental religion filter. It's why the things that go into your head and the things that come out of your head, they don't match up. They don't make sense because your brain is broken by this absurd religious mental poison. But come on, can you please get to something useful? Anything. I'm not that picky right now. Please.
But what's interesting is that if Jesus came back tomorrow, those same people would probably be down on their knees begging Jesus for forgiveness because now they see, right? And a lot of them tend to say something like, well, why doesn't he just give us irrefutable evidence that, he was around and things like that, and is here still?
It's a good question, because as I've said recently in videos on divine hiddenness, it makes no rational sense for a being that supposedly loves us and wants us to believe in him, who actively punishes people for not believing in him, to not provide clear and obvious evidence that he actually exists. The kind of mental gymnastics that the religious have to go through to justify this kind of thing is really, really absurd. Talk about people who aren't listening. This guy is trying to tell us, as a lot of theists do, that we all actually believe what he believes. We're just being dishonest. We just want to misbehave. That explains it all in their tiny little minds. Because they've got nothing else, do they? They really don't. They have to concoct these elaborate stories in their heads, how we all really know they're right, but we just won't admit it because we like to sin. And that's really stupid. It just is.
Or then he would become a dictator, right? You wouldn't really have your free will that way, right? So here you're being given an opportunity to choose, but you're actually choosing to be away from God.
No, I'm choosing to evaluate the world rationally, based on objective evidence and not immature emotions. I'm not the one living my life in a fantasy world. That's you. If you want me to believe in your God, and that's supposedly what you want because you're making this video, then convince me that your God is objectively and demonstrably real with evidence. That's what you're supposedly here for, right? To prove that God is real, to provide proof for atheists that the thing that you believe in is actually true. It's in your title. Look it up. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Let me go look. Let me go back and look at the title of the video because I might have been mistaken. Nope, it actually says proof God exists for atheists. So here we are, 2 minutes and 14 seconds into a 3 minute and 55 second video, and you haven't gotten anywhere close. Why is that? What am I missing here? Because this is not how you convince people. It's just not. This is how you make people roll their eyes and think you're a moron. Because unfortunately, you're a moron. But again, he's not really making this video for us. He's making it for his religious followers. Everything he's saying is designed to confirm what they already believe. See, we're right. Yeah, except you're not. They don't want to talk to us, not directly, because we're going to point out all of the places that they're wrong, and that's going to hurt their precious widow fee-fees. So they go around and talk about us to other people who don't understand what we're talking about. And they all consistently get it wrong.
So if you end up going to hell, which is a possibility, then you've made that choice yourself, right? So you can't blame anyone for that.
We'll let you know if that ever happens. I'm not convinced that hell exists, and you've done nothing at all to prove it to me. Maybe you should try that. Oh, right, you can't because you've got nothing but your own blind faith and a silly book of primitive mythology. The problem here isn't us, it's you. We're asking you to prove it, and you're just standing there waving your arms around, ranting and raving, and when we don't take you seriously, as no one in their right mind should, you get mad and you throw a temper tantrum like an immature child. Maybe you need to re-examine your position and especially your approach. It doesn't look very good from where we're standing.
So rather than play games and say something like, oh, I have a lack of belief in God, why don't you just say that you don't believe in him?
Okay, I don't. But there's a difference between saying you don't believe and saying you disbelieve. There's a difference between saying I don't believe you and saying the things that you're saying are wrong and I reject them entirely. I don't believe in Bigfoot, but I acknowledge that I could be wrong. All it would take is for somebody to show up with a Bigfoot carcass and throw it up on the table, and I'd change my mind. And the same goes with a God. Prove to me conclusively that one exists in some objectively verifiable way, and I will change my mind. Supposedly, that's what we're here for today, right? Not like it's looking like he's ever going to get around to providing that claimed proof for atheists, because the religious never do. Not ever. And then they call us dishonest. Go figure.
In fact, I am under the belief that there are people or atheists out there that actually do believe in God, but that just outright reject him. Even if God came back today, if I ask you, as a person that has a lack of belief in God, if I ask you to reply in the comments below, if God came back down tomorrow and said, here I am, would you actually accept it?
Sure, because in that instance, I've now been provided with objectively verifiable evidence that a God actually exists. Now, how about you let me know when that's going to happen? Provide evidence. The religious are really good about saying if. I don't care about if, I care about when. When this happens, I will change my mind. When you prove that your beliefs are factually true, I will acknowledge that they are. I might not adopt them, there's a lot of other factors involved, but I'll certainly acknowledge that your God exists once you have proven that that is the case. Now, go ahead and prove it. Do something but flap your lips. Put up or shut up. But of course, you'll do none of that, will you?
That's the question, and you have to be truthful to yourself.
Said by the person who is religiously delusional for entirely emotional reasons. Yeah. Tell us another one.
But anyway, the number one piece of evidence I have that God exists is me.
So, in other words, you've got absolutely nothing. We sat through 3 minutes of your video listening to you whine and complain about imaginary atheist boogeymen, only to get to that? Are you serious? You are not proof of anything except your own existence. Okay, maybe you are proof your parents fucked, but that's about as close as you get. Of course, this is all done for emotional comfort, not for objective proof, because these people do not understand what objective proof is. They don't care. What else is new? But all right, go ahead, keep making a fool of yourself. Tell us why you're proof of anything but your own ignorance.
I'm a lot happier than I've ever been in my life.
That's nice. Now, I'm sure he'll go on to say that God makes him happy. So what? There are people in mental institutions whose complete delusions make them happy too. That doesn't make those delusions factually correct. I spent many years as a Christian, and since giving it up, close to 40 years ago now, I've been much, much happier than I ever was as a theist. Why? Because I don't have to deal with the stupid mental poison coursing through my veins. And the funny thing is, this argument gets used by stupid people in just about all religions. Muslims, Hindus, Scientologists, all of them are much happier now that they've stopped trying to think critically and just let intelligence go and die. That doesn't prove that any of their gods are real. It just proves how dumb they are. And that's something this guy hasn't even thought of, I'm sure. It's never crossed his mind that he's not alone in thinking that his own happiness somehow indicates truth. Because there's lots of happy non-Christians out there and lots of very unhappy Christians. It's why Christian divorce rates are so high. The statistics for Christianity suck. It's one thing to go sit in a corner and rock back and forth and pretend that you're happy, but the external evidence tends to paint a very different picture. I mean, really, listen to Christians sometime. They are seething in anger just beneath the surface. Listen to your typical Christian pastor on Sunday morning. The world is terrible. Everyone's out to get us. And there's a vast war on Christianity. Yada, yada, yada. That is not happiness. It just isn't.
It doesn't mean to say that every day is always perfect, but, I'm much happier than I've ever been. Call it what you will. Some of you Christians, atheists.
And there, he just lets you know with that slip who he's really talking to. Because he's not talking to us. He's not talking to atheists. He doesn't give a damn about us. He's talking to the already faithful. He doesn't care what we say. He just has to try to discredit the non-religious because whether he likes it or not, we're winning. Christianity is dying in the Western world. All religion is really, but Christianity is really taking a pounding. We're growing, they're shrinking, and they're desperate to find a way to explain it in a way that's emotionally comforting. They can't just be honest about it and admit they've got nothing. They have to fabricate grand conspiracy theories that everybody really knows they're right. We all just want to sin. And that's just stupid. But, consider the source. These are adults with imaginary friends. What else can you expect?
We'll say, ignorance is bliss, blah, 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 whatever. But I'm a lot happier. And I just hope that some of you guys will have a change of heart and join me.
Why would we? Because your personal emotional state doesn't prove anything. What he's doing really is childish if you think about it. You don't get two groups of scientists together declaring that their personally favorite explanation must be correct because, it makes them happy. There is no happiness meter in scientific journals. Everybody write in and tell us how these hypotheses make you feel so we can declare a winner. That's just stupid. It really is. Yet that's exactly what this guy is doing. I personally feel good, so I'm right. No, you're an idiot. That's not how rational inquiry works. But these people are not rational. Not one bit.
If you're a Christian, make sure you pray to Jesus or you read the Bible whenever you can. Make sure you repent of your sins. We can do a prayer right now, actually.
Yeah, let's not. He puts one up on screen, but I think we're done here. Because this, like all videos of its kind, was a complete waste of time. He had nothing, but he feels good about having nothing, so that's all that matters to the emotionally clueless. And then he wonders why nobody takes him seriously. He wonders why his videos get such backlash. It's because he's being an idiot. But again, I don't say that to be cruel. I do it because that's what the word means. Idiot, according to the dictionary, is a person affected with extreme intellectual disability. And that describes exactly what we're seeing on screen. These people are not interested in truth. They don't care about the facts. They don't understand what things like proof or evidence, anything like that, what any of those mean. It's all about feelings, and the facts can go take a giant leap because they just don't care. They really don't. This guy spends 80% of his video complaining about people who don't take him seriously, and for valid reasons, I might add. And then the best he can do at the end, as proof for atheists, for his imaginary friend, is say, me. That's not proof of anything. And if you think it is, there's something severely wrong with your cognitive faculties. But that's religion for you. It's made up of people who just aren't concerned about reality. Reality is scary, so they just retreat into their childish fantasy world where they can pretend to be happy while spending all of their time complaining about people who make fun of them. Because they should be made fun of. This is not how rational people operate. Now, granted, he's not as bad as someone like Steven Anderson or Kenneth Copeland or some of the more extreme examples, but he's still not doing intelligence very well. He still hasn't got a clue how to intellectually evaluate his ideas about reality to see if they stand up to critical scrutiny. Because they don't. But he doesn't care because reality is potentially uncomfortable and his religious fantasies make him happy. But that's no way for anyone with half a brain to live. It just isn't. Please, try to grow a few brain cells. It might help.
Bum